Hello everyone and welcome to the Lazy Kitchen. Today I'm really excited to do something with you that's kind of a favorite at my house. It's especially a favorite these days because it's a very quick recipe and I can make it with ingredients that I already have at home. And for those of you who've been at the office recently, you know that I'm floating by myself while Dr. Alvarez is on maternity leave. And it's a really long days and really long weeks, and I am very grateful to be able to come home, grab things out of the freezer, and cook myself a healthy meal in less than 10 minutes. So the recipe today is Italian style chicken, vegetable, and polenta stew in tomato base. For those of you who are new to the Lazy Kitchen, that's the place for people who don't know how to cook, don't have time to cook, don't really like to cook, but you still want to make an affordable and a healthy meal for you and your family. Three quick rules. Number one is lazy. We cook everything in 10 minutes or less. We don't cut, prep, clean. We're going to use one single pot to cook everything. This happens to be my old, it's a multi-function electric cooker. This happens to be my old 6-quart Instapot, but any electric cooker should be able to do that for you. Second rule is thrifty. We want our meals to be as affordable as we can make them without losing nutrition. I'll tell you exactly where I sourced my ingredients and for what cost. And rule number 3, probably the most important in my book, is healthy. We want to make a meal based on whole foods or minimally processed food. And I'm going to define a nutritious meal as a meal that has a complete protein, that has a healthy source of carbohydrates. Incidentally, I have celiac, so all the recipes are gluten-free, and the majority of them are either naturally dairy-free or can easily be made dairy-free. And then very important, we want at least 2 vegetables. That's often one of the hardest things to incorporate in our diet. So we try to have a variety of vegetables and a fair amount of quantity of vegetables as well. So let's look at the ingredients together. For the protein, I'm going to use chicken. Now you can use really any cut of chicken that you want that doesn't require a lot of prep. Normally I would use chicken thighs. It just so happened I had a couple old chicken patties somewhere in the freezer that I had to use up, so I have 5 of them, and it's basically pressed ground chicken. Try to get some, at least some free-range chicken or something that's been raised as naturally and as ethically as possible. Even chicken thighs are pretty inexpensive in addition to being tasty. You can probably get a bag of 5 or 6 chicken thighs for maybe $4 or $5. If you see them on sale and they're good quality, just buy them and stock them up in the freezer. They come in handy for a lot of recipes. For the starch, we're going to use polenta. Polenta basically is boiled and pressed corn. This happens to be one that I picked up at one of the stores. It's just organic corn, water, and salt. It's shelf stable, and they don't add anything to it. The polenta, this roll is about $3 or maybe a few more pennies than that. For the vegetables, we're going to use bell peppers. I just happens to have this mix of tricolor peppers that's $1.99 or maybe even less than that. Any mix of peppers will do. The second vegetable is going to be zucchini blend. Those I picked up, it looks at Walmart, they was like $1.30. They were really inexpensive, and it's kind of a nice thing to have on hand. It's a vegetable that's pretty neutral, especially if you have people in your household that are trying to build up a palate to vegetable. Third one, that's going to be a lot of fun for me, we're going to use artichoke hearts. These happen to be frozen artichokes, so there's nothing added. They're not as easy to find as the canned artichokes, so if you only can get your hands on canned artichokes, you do that. Make sure that you rinse them really well, that they don't have too many things added to them. These are maybe around $3. I'm only going to use half of it. Artichokes go a long way, so it's going to be about $1.50's worth of artichokes. And then we're going to use, excuse me, a can of plain diced tomatoes, probably $1.50 someplace on sale at Cub. For the seasoning, we're going to add some plain sea salt, Just be careful. Often the tomatoes are salted, so don't add a lot of salt right out the gate. Just make your stew and then, you know, taste it before you add salt. And then for the seasoning, you know, the typical Italian herbs are going to be your oregano, your basil, thyme. So any mix, if you have them individually, great. Any mix. If you have something called pizza seasoning, which this happens to have been lurking in the back of my pantry for a while, it basically will have a mix of herbs that will go really well with this recipe. And that is it. So we're going to start this, and I am going to start my timer. Oops, I always do that. Ta-da. Okay. So first thing, I'm going to use a little bit of olive oil. This means that my cooker is starting, and I'm going to brown the meat a little bit. Very good. Here is my chicken. I'm going to put the chicken here. And while this is going, I'm going to just prep a few things here. I'm going to open my can of crushed tomatoes. Whoa. I guess in my next life I'll get an electric can opener. Maybe. All right. That is good. Whoa. Hello. I'm going to get the vegetables ready. I'm not going to add them quite right away. I want to just brown my meat a little bit. Now here's a trick with frozen vegetables when you thaw them. Some of them will give out a little bit of liquid, and if you don't want things to be too juicy or too soggy, you can drain them. I'm going to drain them in the bowl where the chicken came from. If you like things really a little more watery, juicy, you certainly can keep that as well. So, and for some reason, these bell peppers always give out a ton of liquid, so I'm definitely going to drain some of them. All right. Okay, pretty good. Right. And I'm going to get this ready. The chicken is starting to brown a little bit. Here. Very good. Artichoke hearts. Let's see how watery they are. Not much there. The polenta. Let's talk about the polenta. So the polenta, you are not going to put it right away. This is a meal that you start once you have everything going. It's probably going to take maybe 4 or 5 hours. So if you were to make it for the evening, you could do it in the morning while you make yourself coffee. If you have a delay start function on the electric cooker, most of them have them. That's a great time to just get it, maybe to start cooking around noon or 1 o'clock. But what you can do is you can, you will be adding your polenta at the very end. So you come home, you just throw the polenta in it. The polenta is pre-cooked. It only needs maybe 5 minutes to heat up. So what I will do is I will pre-cut the polenta ready to go. There we go. And I'll have that. Wow! There was one polenta slice. Very good. So I'll put them in a little bowl like that. And as soon as I get home later tonight, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to toss that in the stew and go wash my hands, clean up for 5 minutes, and then by the time I'm done with that, it will be rest ready. So our chicken is nice and roasted. So we're just going to add the vegetables. Oh, smells so good. Add the zucchini. More look at all. They tell you have to eat all colors of the rainbow in one day. So I think we're gonna eat them all in one meal today. Very good. And I'm gonna add the artichoke hearts. Ooh. In my book, you can never have too many artichokes, but not everybody agrees with me in the household. I'm going to add the herbs. And you can play around, whatever herbs you like, you have on hand that you think would go well with the chicken and tomatoes. Good. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt. Don't want to go too far. It's one of my favorite salt. And then we're going to add our tomatoes. Very good. So this really yummy tomato, fresh tasting Italian wannabe stew. Very healthy. I mean, you got, you know, your good protein, you got lots of vegetables, lots of colorful vegetables. And then at the end, you're gonna add polenta. Polenta is really a, you know, minimally processed grain. It is a grain and it is corn. So obviously if it's something that cannot be part of your diet for one reason or the other, you would have to substitute something else. Could put some brown rice, could put some, you know, cooked potatoes. That would take a little more time. So very good. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to shut this off and I'm going to put it on slow cook. We're gonna eat it tonight when we come back from the bike ride. So I am going to get it started right away. But if let's say I were making this in the morning, coming home at 7 o'clock on a good day, then I would use the delay start function. And then I would probably get it, you know, holding for about 5 hours before it starts. So all I have to do is seal my lid. Very good. 6 minutes and 15 seconds. I still have a few more minutes to just throw this in the dishwasher, put a few things back in the fridge and freezer, and make sure that I got my cooked polenta just all ready to toss in when I get home. Voila! I hope you've enjoyed preparing a little dinner with me. I look forward to seeing you again.